Ukraine strikes inside Russia. A new turn. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has entered a new phase. Recent weeks have seen Ukrainian forces conduct bold strikes inside Russian territory. These attacks, utilizing advanced weaponry provided by the United States, signal a shift in Ukraine's military strategy. No longer solely focused on defense, Ukraine is demonstrating its capacity to project force beyond its borders. These strikes have targeted key military infrastructure within Russia. Fuel depots, air bases, and command centers have been hit, disrupting Russian logistics and undermining their war effort. The attacks have also struck a psychological blow, demonstrating the vulnerability of the Russian heartland to Ukrainian retaliation. The Kremlin has condemned these attacks as acts of terrorism, vowing swift and severe consequences. However, the strikes have emboldened Ukraine and its Western allies. They underscore the effectiveness of Western military aid and Ukraine's resolve to take the fight to Russia. The international community has reacted with a mixture of concern and condemnation. Some fear that these strikes could escalate the conflict, leading to a wider war. Others argue that Ukraine has the right to defend itself and strike back against its aggressor. Biden's green light, expanding military support to Ukraine. The Ukrainian strikes inside Russia follow a significant policy shift by the Biden administration. President Biden has authorized the transfer of longer-range missile systems to Ukraine. These systems, previously withheld over fears of escalation, give Ukraine the capability to strike deeper into Russian territory. This decision reflects the evolving U.S. strategy in the conflict. Initially, the focus was on providing Ukraine with defensive weaponry. However, as the war has dragged on, the U.S. has gradually expanded its military assistance. The provision of offensive weapons, such as long-range missiles, marks a new phase in this support. The Biden administration argues that this decision is necessary to bolster Ukraine's negotiating position. By demonstrating its ability to inflict significant costs on Russia, the U.S. believes it can strengthen Ukraine's hand in any future peace talks. However, critics argue that providing Ukraine with offensive weapons risks provoking Russia and escalating the conflict. The decision has also sparked debate about the limits of U.S. involvement in the conflict. While the U.S. maintains it is not directly at war with Russia, the provision of increasingly sophisticated weaponry to Ukraine raises questions about the line between support and active participation in hostilities. Shifting sands, the geopolitics of striking Russian territory. The Ukrainian strikes inside Russia have significant geopolitical implications. They challenge the Kremlin's narrative of a limited special military operation and expose the vulnerabilities of the Russian military. This could have long-term consequences for Russia's standing on the world stage. Firstly, the strikes demonstrate the limitations of Russia's military capabilities. Despite its vast size and resources, the Russian military has struggled to achieve its objectives in Ukraine. The successful Ukrainian strikes inside Russia further underscore these limitations, highlighting the gap between perception and reality. Secondly, the strikes have emboldened Ukraine's Western allies. The the effectiveness of Western-supplied weapons has reinforced the belief that supporting Ukraine is the best way to counter Russian aggression. This could lead to even greater military and economic assistance for Ukraine in the future. Finally, the strikes have raised the stakes of the conflict. Russia's response remains uncertain, but the Kremlin will be under pressure to retaliate. This could lead to further escalation, with unpredictable consequences for the region and the world. Section 4. Global reactions. A spectrum of support and condemnation. The international community's response to the Ukrainian strikes inside Russia has been divided. Western nations have largely expressed understanding for Ukraine's actions, viewing them as a legitimate response to Russian aggression. However, some countries have voiced concerns about the potential for escalation. The United States and its NATO allies have reiterated their unwavering support for Ukraine's right to defend itself. They argue that Russia bears sole responsibility for the conflict, and that Ukraine is justified in taking all necessary measures to repel the invasion. However, countries like China and India have called for restraint from both sides. They have urged a peaceful resolution to the conflict through dialogue and diplomacy. These nations are wary of escalating tensions and the potential for a wider global conflict. The strikes have also reignited debate about the role of international law in armed conflict. While Ukraine argues it is acting within its right to self-defense, Russia condemns the strikes as a violation of its sovereignty. This legal and moral debate is likely to continue as the conflict evolves.